Now, go into the bedroom.
Mr. Roat. Are you looking at me?
Yes, it
Stop! Don't touch that! Yeah!
I have your knife, Mr. Roat.
And I've got the matches, Mrs. Hendricks. No, it's out! It's out, I said! Cut out! Stop!
Try lighting a match now, Mr. Roat. Throw your matches over to me. Go on. Don't move. I still have your knife. Pick up the cane. And tap on the floor, right where you are, so I know where you are. Go on, tap. Tap. Keep tapping. Keep tapping. Keep tapping. Tap.
Hello and welcome to Book versus Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies, and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of coloniabook.com, and this is my good friend and co-host, Margot D. of Brooklyn Fit Chick.
Hi, everyone.
If you're new and you thought, wow, I didn't know this movie was based on a book, it's not, but hear us out. Here's the thing is some time ago, we decided to do a brand new episode every single week. And that means a lot of the times we have to choose things that are shorter literary sources. So we will consider movies. We've been doing this. We're going on 10 years, guys. So we will consider any movie that's based on any kind of literary source. It could be a magazine article. It could be a novella. It could be a song, or in this case, it's a play. And it also means that we are constantly looking for suggestions. Our only stipulation is, yes, it has to be a movie adaptation from a literary source. And both the literary source and the movie have to be easily accessible. The movie's got to be streaming somewhere. We got to be able to get our hands on the source material. It can't be out of print or, hard to come by for folks. And that's basically it. But if you would like to make some suggestions for future episodes, you want to meet other listeners of this podcast or interact with us, there's a few places where you can do that on the internet.
We do have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it. All the episodes are posted there, but we're much more interactive in our Facebook group. Thaddeus is very generous with his time, and he put up 2 top posts for us. One are the episodes that we have covered, and then one's for suggestions for new episodes. But people are always leaving ideas there. We also talk about the movie and the book that we're talking about that week and stuff like that. So that's Book VS Movie Podcast Group. Ask to join. It's a private group, and we do just talk about books and movies there. We are also on Twitter, as long as that exists, at an Instagram and Threads. All those places you spell out book versus and movie. And we also have an old-timey email. That's book versus movie podcast, spelled it all out, at gmail.com. And if you would like some stickers, drop your address in the email and we will send them to you.
And if you really enjoy the show and would like to help keep us in books and movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
Yes, that's Patreon. Look up Book VS Movie Podcasts, and we would appreciate your support. We use the money just for the books and the movies and the streaming costs and just the software and stuff like that to put the show together. I'd like to thank Jennifer for joining us. And some of the episodes we put up in the last few months, like Margot said, we're putting in our regular fee, 2 years worth of shows, and then all of the holiday episodes we'll keep there for you all. But after that, we're going to put them on the Patreon wall. Steel Magnolias, Top Gun, Of Mice and Men, Harold and Maude, Little Women, Turn of the Screw, Psycho, The Silence of the Lambs. Those are just a few of the ones that we have up there on a Patreon wall. So thanks again to Jennifer for joining us.
We do really appreciate it. We do, for those of you who are new, we have certain months of the year where we do kind of like a theme month. We're just coming off of Banned Books Month. So if you enjoy banned books as much as we do, go check out our recent archive and you'll find some fun titles that we did last month. And of course, October, we do spooky movies. We do ghosty, spooky, not slasher, not so much the gushing and the slashing, but spooky, ooky, creepy, mysterious, suspenseful kinds of things we adore. And today we're going to be talking about a movie that was based on a hit play, features some of our favorite people. We're talking about Wait Until Dark by Frederick Knott.
This is one of the shortest bios, Margot, that I've ever done because Mr. Knott, he was actually born in China in 1916. His parents were Christian, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Missionaries.
Thank you, missionaries. So he lived around the world, but he did settle in New York City and started writing plays rather young. He wrote Dial-M for Murder, which is definitely on our list. We'll definitely, because we do really well with the Hitchcock movies. And Write Me a Murder was another one of his plays, but this is the one he wrote in 1966. And pretty much after this, he decided, I'm just going to live off of my royalties, which I have a friend that did that. He wrote a musical called Thrill Me, and he's been living off that for 20 plus years. And I'm like, good on you. He goes to plays. He lives his life. He passed away in 2002. He'd done a few TV plays. The Honey Pot was another film screenplay that he worked on, The Last Page. He did write the screenplay for Dial-M for Murder. But I think he just sort of made his money and then decided to live happily ever after with his spouse in New York City. And who could blame him?
I know. I get it. I could see the appeal.
Yes. Yeah. My friend goes to every play, every musical, every movie, every art exhibit. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, I think I am too. Let's talk a little bit about for those of you who don't know, you've never heard of Wait Until Dark. We'll just give you it's super simple plot, really. A blind woman, housewife, lives in New York City, and she and her husband unwittingly become involved in a drugs ring. They accidentally come into possession of some heroin that these real bad men want to get their hands on, and they end up playing with their lives. And it's it's an example. People always bring up this movie as an example of the suspense genre. Just the fact that she's blind, you're already like, oh, it's not like, oh, we introduced that she's blind and it never comes into play again.
No, it's essential to the plot.
It's very essential to the plot. The Broadway production of this I found extremely intriguing. First of all, we have our director is Arthur Penn. Many of us know from directing things like Bonnie and Clyde, Little Big Man, Night Moves, Alice's Restaurant. I have to revisit Alice's Restaurant one of these days. I haven't seen it for a while.
Same.
But
Maybe we should do a book versus movie.
I know, huh? Because a song.
Yeah.
I think, when I watched the movie, which I hadn't seen in a very long time, I think there's a lot of his influence in the way that the story is told. I think it has a very Arthur Penn feel to it. But when I look at our two leads in the Broadway production, I'm stumbling because I'm so excited, is Lee Remick.
Wow.
Who so underrated. Can I just say, she is always brilliant. We talked about her when we talked about Face in the Crowd with Andy Griffith. She's phenomenal in that. I can't even imagine how great she must have been. And as our bad guy, just Robert Duvall.
That's all. It's like 3 years or 4 years before he does The Godfather, and his career kind of takes off. But yeah, he was on the stage, and the girl that plays Gloria, in the movie, she's also in the play. It was very successful. My parents saw it. They said it was amazing, and the jump scares, truly, because they made the theater so dark, and back then you could smoke inside movie theaters and plays. So they would tell people, please don't smoke, because they were going to gradually lower the lights, and they didn't want to distract from what was on stage. Yeah,
because when you smoke, this is for those of you who are born after us, people used to smoke indoors all over the place. And when you smoke indoors in a dark room, the slightest shaft of light will completely illuminate the cloud of smoke. And so you cannot have total darkness in a room. If somebody even so much as cracks a door or another person lights a cigarette. They light the match
Yes.
is going to light the whole thing. So yeah, if you want total darkness, you cannot have smoke. And also, maybe don't smoke inside where other people are in an enclosed
They
space.
did in movie. I remember I was little, but I remember in movie theaters there was a smoking section. There was
On the
you could smoke
airplane.
on an airplane. They had a little ashtray right at your chair. This is anyway.
I mean,
Yeah. So this is, it came out in 1966. It's a story about, and like Margot said, we'll keep it pretty. I mean, it's a pretty basic story. It's about
super basic.
Yeah, there's this doll that contains the heroin. It's worth about $50,000, which is a lot of money in 1966. And there's one gentleman who has two basic flunkies, he hires to help him find, because when the woman named Lisa gives Sam, the husband of the blind woman, Susie, she meets him at the airport and says, "Hey, can you give this doll to my daughter?" We don't know exactly what the reasoning is.
Yes, we can only deduce the beginning of the play is extremely expositional, we should say. We deduce that she was at the airport. She maybe caught on that she was being followed. She was supposed to be what's called a mule, transporting the drugs from one place to another. At some point, she decided to kind of go into business for herself. She's got this giant amount of heroin that's extremely valuable, and she decides to kind of make a run for it. But to do that, she's got to get rid of it for a little while. So she just gives it to this guy. She's very beautiful, and she gives it to this very nice man that she meets at the airport. Like, "Oh, could you just hang on to this for a little bit, and I'll connect with you, and I'll just pick it up later. I think she said something like, I don't want my daughter to be jealous if she sees me with it," or something like that. I can't remember. Or she's going to give it to a girl in the hospital. It's a weird story. It doesn't check, but the guy's like, "Okay."
We should say, once again, she's gorgeous.
Yes.
So that's like her superpower.
And of course, also nowadays, the airport, any airport in the world is practically riddled with signs telling you not to do not accept anything from anyone, no matter how beautiful or nice they may seem. Just don't offer to carry anything for
Watch
anybody
your
else
baggage everywhere you go
at all times. Yeah. So anyway, so he's done that. The doll is supposedly in this house. Now, there's some differences between the play and the movie. And we'll talk about the movie, of course, when we get to it. Particularly the ending, I think, is critically extremely different. I'm a little mad about it, but
I am very mad. But we'll talk.
Yeah,
about it. Yes.
But the play, unlike in the movie, the play takes place in just the apartment. We never ever leave this apartment. So we open up on the apartment. We don't know whose apartment it is, and there's one guy that walks into the apartment as if it's his. It seems like it's his place. He's like relaxing on the sofa. And then this other guy comes in, and turns out they know each other. They're both criminals. They both are freshly out of prison, I think, right? And the second guy who shows up is like, "Wow, you've done really well. This is a really great place." He's like, "Well, thanks so much." Anyway, over the course of their conversation, they figure out like, no, he's just pretending like this is his apartment. It's not really his apartment. They both have been lured there by this woman, Lisa, that Margot mentioned, this beautiful woman. We gather they're both kind of in love with her. One guy's a little schlumpy. The other guy's a little more dashing. But, Lisa says, "Hey, meet me at this apartment." And they're like, "Okay, here I come, Lisa." And so there they are.
Walk
and they're
in.
like, yeah, they just walk right in because Lisa said. So we get a lot of talk about this Lisa and, how beautiful she is and what could she possibly want. But whatever it is, we're happy to do it because it's Lisa. But then Lisa doesn't show. A third guy shows up with a carpet.
Yeah, and wearing sunglasses indoors, and is kind of hipster, and walks in and it's like, "Oh, you two yutzes, you really think Lisa cares about you?" And he says, like, "Look, Lisa did something that she shouldn't have done, and we have to come here and make up for it." And we realize that Lisa went to the apartment, and it's Sam once again. Sam and Susie live at the apartment, and apparently she asked for the doll and they couldn't find the doll. They looked everywhere. And she was like, "Oh boy." So she takes off. And then Roat is his name. And he says, "Yeah, she did something naughty. And she said they couldn't find it here." So he thinks that they know that the doll contains something. bad, if not heroin, maybe money or diamonds or something. But he's suspicious that the doll just disappears. And he brings, like Margot says, a rug. He starts talking to them and he makes them give up their brass knuckles and their knives. Like that's like 60s fighting.
They're so threatened by the knife.
They do. They just like hand it. Why? I don't.
He's got a not that a switchblade. Listen, people do a lot of damage with knives.
Yeah.
But they're two guys against one guy.
He's sitting
with
in a
a
rocking
knife.
chair. How quickly is he going to jump out? I mean,
He's
I
on
guess
the other side of the room.
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot that's asked of you. You have to give up a lot.
Okay,
of
there are some
rational
plot
things.
holes.
Yes,
We will discuss them.
yes,
But that's
he's,
one, I think.
Right, and then he says he encourages them to light a cigarette with him. He's talking, and then he lets them know that Lisa's dead. And they better help him find out. He says, because guess what? This whole time you've been here, you've left your fingerprints everywhere. This is actually the home of somebody else. And look at me. I didn't touch anything except this little ashtray I carry with me. And I bring my gloves everywhere I go. And he says, and that rug is the rug we're going to we're going to wrap up Lisa in this rug because he killed her. And I'm just going to throw her in the trash, basically, like wherever he can. And they realize they're really in trouble and they have to go along with it. And then,
and again, they're both recently out of prison. So they're really, really in trouble.
Because it's murder now. Now there's a body involved, including, and then on top of the drugs. So what happens next is that we meet Sam and Susie. Susie recently lost her sight, or within like the last couple of years. They'd only been married, they're newlyweds basically. They've only been married for about a year. He's handsome, he's a photographer, she's very pretty, and she's learning to be a blind person. So she has to learn Braille. And being blind in New York City, and there are some schools for the blind. I don't know if you remember, like I've seen crosswalks and so it is possible to be around New York, but still I think it's a very frightening.
It must have been so, and I mean, not only did they not have the beeping sounds, they did not have the crosswalks, they probably had traffic cops, maybe you could hear them, but they didn't have like all of the accessibility things. Not that it's nearly enough for what we do need, but the things that we take for granted today, like the sidewalks dipping down and having those little ridges, where the sidewalk ends so you can feel, so you don't walk out into the street, and all those kinds of things did not exist. So yeah, it must have been really challenging. We learned that she's recently blind, which I think is supposed to have us forgive a lot of the plot holes.
Yeah. She's just figuring, there's lots of things. I mean, for me, I always go like, why do they not lock that door? You're in New York City. But then I have to remind myself, Margot, your parents never lock doors and they're from New York City. Like there's some people that just don't think about it.
They live it's Greenwich Village. Yeah. They live in a basement apartment. And there's a little girl, Gloria, lives upstairs, and she sort of helps Susie, the wife, with errands and things around the house while her husband is at work. They don't have children themselves, but they're friends with Gloria and her mom who live in the building. There's also something or other about like there's an empty apartment in the building, and that's where they put Lisa's body, right?
There's something like that. I mean, like she does have a neighbor, but in the movie they explain like the neighbor goes away because I'm almost wondering the same thing. She's yelling for help and nobody shows up. Right. But
okay, if I don't care if I'm a kind of person who doesn't lock their door. If a dead body was found in an empty apartment in my building, I would consider locking the door. Give Gloria a key. Give the kid a key.
Yeah, she just
really?
Yeah. So Gloria also, she's like 11 or 12. She's like a Hitchcock little girl. She has the glasses.
Oh, she really is.
And she's got the stink face. Yeah. Like she's always like looking for trouble. But her dad is in and out of the picture. Her mother is in and out of the picture. You see, she's alone a lot, and so and she probably has a crush on Sam. And she takes care of Susie, but she's kind of a brat with Susie sometimes. They get into little tiffs. But anyway, she's alone. Susie's alone, and then Mike comes over, and that's one of the men that was in the apartment, and he calls himself Mike, and he says, I'm an old buddy of your husband's from, I guess, the Korean War. I don't know what it would be, but...
Yeah, I think it must have been the Korean War. I was wondering that, too, because in the movie, it's also not very clear. We see a photo, which is not in the play at all, but it has to be, right? Because we're in the 60s, so that would make sense.
It'd be like 10 or 15 years out. Mm-hmm, right. Mm-hmm. So they're friends from the war. They were war buddies, and we know how that goes. If you have any veterans in your family, like they're very close to the people they served with. And he comes upon this woman, Susie, who's a bit, and she's blind. I guess something was some match went off in her ashtray, and she's kind of nervous. And he immediately comes to her rescue, and then he immediately sort of ingratiates himself to her and just says, "Oh, Mike and I were old buddies. Wanted to come say hi to him." Mike, by the way, Sam is in Asbury Park, which very important to know, geographically speaking. It is
not close.
No. I have friends that live in that area. That is a schlep. Like I went to a funeral once, and it was like I left 6 a.m. and I didn't get until like 8 or 9 at night.
I lived in Jersey, and it was a schlep even from there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a couple of buses, it's a couple of trains, it's a schlep. So for him, but he has some gig it's going to be lucrative, and they obviously, of course, they need the money. That's how he earns his keep. So he says to her, "Look, I'm going to be in Asbury Park, but you're going to be okay. Gloria's upstairs," and he's a little condescending with his.
Oh, don't worry that a dead woman was. It's fine. Why are you so?
Are you making
skittish?
this up? Yes. So he just goes. So she's alone, and she wants to be self-sufficient. She doesn't want to be so dependent on him, be like a child. So this Mike shows up, and he immediately starts taking an interest, and he's like, "So what happened?" And she explains that she became blind, and that Mike just came back from a trip, and it was very odd. They had this doll. They lost the doll. And he's trying to get from her, like, where is this doll really? What happened with it? Because he immediately thinks they put it in a safe or something in the apartment. And she says, "No, the lady who lived here before just left us the safe." And safes, by the way, are very, very heavy.
Safes are ridiculously.
Yes.
I was just talking about this. I just realized it's a story I can't tell on the air. But
never
I was just talking about this with somebody. Yeah, because I used to be an interior designer, and frequently we would have clients who were like, "Oh, we just want to put a safe in there," and we would be like, if you're going to put even a small safe, you have to have like steel reinforcement. It's going to go through the floor. Like safes. That safe in the basement is probably in the basement because it's got a concrete slab underneath it. Yeah, they are hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Like they take several burly people to move,
right?
Even a small safe, and this safe is not that small. And so it's just, I love that touch because it's very plausible, actually.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Somebody tries to sell it to you, and you're like, "Nah." Because what are you going to do? But then
what are you going to do? Carry it out of here?
She says that she used a key, which is, I don't think is how safes work. But she said it was a key, and the woman throws the key away. So Mike is trying to find from her, like he's looking around the apartment, and then he at one point he calls the police station for her. And then Sergeant Carlino answers, and then the other guy shows up as Sergeant Carlino.
So the three men, the guy, the head thug guy, he's Mr. Roat. We don't know what anybody's real name is, really. Mr. Roat plays both an old man and a young man. They're taking advantage of Susie being blind, part of a ruse to help further search the house because they really think that the doll is in the house. Then you have the fellow who plays Mike. He's the more dashing of the two criminals who poses as the army buddy. And then you have the third fellow who's the kind of schlubby dumpy one. And his name is Carlino, but he's playing a police officer. And in the Broadway version, he's played by Val Bisoglio, who is better known as the dad from Saturday Night Fever.
Oh my God!
John Travolta's dad.
I miss that? Oh my God! Oh wow, that must have been a great play.
I know, right?
Oh wow! You were looking at me. I'm like, yeah. Like, oh man, he's on my list. I can't interview him, but he's passed away.
Italo Valentino Bisoglio. No, he died at 95.
I missed it.
Wow, but he was out here. It looks like he was out here in California. He was a character actor. He was on so many things when we were kids.
You know, from Saturday Night Fever, he's the one that's like, "One pork chop."
Yes.
I love that scene. He's great. He
plays Carlino, who in this ruse that they're playing on Susie is posing as the police officer who's investigating who's investigating everything.
And he's being a jerk. He's being very aggressive. So it's good cop, get bad cop. They're trying to.
Exactly. Yeah. Poor Susie.
Poor Susie. So she's these two guys that just, and Susie's like, here's what's happening. And she's developed, like, her sense of hearing has become really strong and smell because she's blind. But she's trying to reason with them. The sergeant leaves, and then an old man shows up and just bursts into the apartment. When Mike leaves, Sergeant Carlino leaves, and then an old man shows up and demands, like, what happened to my wife? And you took something from me. And he goes into their bedroom and steals a picture. And just
he's tearing the place apart.
Right. And once again, she's blind. And what can she say? She says, no, my husband isn't here, because he's demanding to see her husband. And he's talking about his Lisa, and then he leaves. So then somehow Mike comes back again. And the thing is that they're parked outside in a VW bus, and they're using the blinds to go up and down to signal to one another, either call or you leave and then I'll come. So they have like different signals. And so they're right by a phone booth.
I'm just going to grab my notes where I jotted down all of the plot holes. Excuse me, just a moment. I have a few qualms. This is in the play and in the movie, and I think it's even less plausible in the movie. When we first meet Susie, the three men are in her apartment.
Yes.
And they hear her come home. They hear that somebody's coming in, and they all hide. They're all hiding. She comes in, and they realize by how she's acting that she's blind. I don't think they know that right away. That they figure it out as they're watching her, observing her, and they're just being perfectly still. However, you want to tell me this blind woman, who later we're supposed to learn how her amazing sense of sight, her amazing sense of hearing and smell, which saved the day. She can't smell three fully grown men who have been smoking, one of them who has been eating cold cuts out of her refrigerator, and a corpse in her house. He has no idea they're there.
No, she shows up, right, and she doesn't hear breathing. She doesn't just, I can sense when somebody's in the room. Their body heat. Like, one of the guys is less than 2 feet away from her. But she doesn't. And then we just see her in the audience. Like, she kind of moves around, and then she assumes Gloria's there just being a brat. So then she leaves. So there's a few plot holes. We'll get to this. He comes in as an old man, takes a picture, leaves. And Mike is coming in and out, helping her. And once again, they're signaling each other with the blinds back and forth. And at one point, she says to Mike, there's something real. Does my apartment seem dusty to you? He's like, no, why? Because the sergeant was here. He was dusting all over this place because he's trying to get his fingerprints off everything. Like, so she.
Yeah, when he had been in before, he had touched everything. Thinking it was Lisa's apartment.
Right. Somewhat aware, like, that there's some inconsistencies. Then we get the younger son who shows up, and the younger son is, my father, he's so nutty, and he's out of his mind, and can you help me? Because he just wants this doll. And Susie once again is like, it's not here. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing here. He leaves, and they're sort of ratcheting. And then Gloria comes back, and then she had already had a spat with Susie a little while ago because she's a kid and she's bratty. She realizes, like, she comes into the room and she realizes that something's up with Susie. And Susie's saying, she knows all these men are coming in and out. And she knows there's a van parked across the street. And she's like super aware of everything. And Susie says to her, is the light out or something? Because they keep playing with my blinds. And then they kind of figure out, like, these men are probably signaling to one another. She realizes, like, the phone, because Mike keeps handling the phone for her when she's trying to dial and things like that. So because she can memorize phone numbers, and they have Braille on the phone.
Which leads me to plot hole number 2. Because they're playing. So remember, Mike is playing the army buddy. Carlino is playing the police officer. So she, naturally, this guy's bursting in her house. What do? You call the police, right? And she knows what the number is because she early on she calls the emergency. This is before 911. So she calls the emergency number in New York City, which she recites. And I believe it's got 2 zeros in it. Mm-hmm. And then later Mike is like, "Oh, I'll call for you," because he's commandeering the phone because he's just calling the what do you call it? The phone booth across the street where all the other guys, everybody's playing their roles.
Phone.
It's a rotary phone. Remember rotary phones, Margot?
I do.
So the emergency number that she recites has, I believe, at least 2 zeros
and a
in
9.
it, and a 9. And the number that the phone booth is, because we see it in the movie, has 0 zeros in it, and maybe a 9, but not like right at the end it has a 009 or something like that. What do we know about that, Margot? Those of us who are old.
You hear this when you were old. When you dialed a rotary phone, you would hit 0 and go brrrr, and then 1 would be like boop.
Yeah.
So
as the rotary dial reset, a 1 would have 2 clicks, and then it would have imagine like if the 1 had 1 click, the 2 had 2 clicks, the 3 had 3 clicks. So if you were in a hurry, God help you, if you had to dial a number that had like a bunch of 9s and zeros in it, it would take forever.
Once again, before 911. So
yes,
and
before
also
911.
And then it was a big deal when we had push button phones, because that just seemed, it was much shorter and much quicker. But she can hear it. She can hear the clicking.
You can hear a 0 and a 9.
Right. But
even I, as a child, knew a 0 and a 9 is going to make a longer. But okay,
it's a thrown together plan. Like they threw this together at the last second. So he comes back. Roat comes in first as old man, then a young man. And then Mike is even, and the sergeant are really like putting the screws on her. Gloria does come back. Sorry. Gloria comes back and she hides the doll in the apartment. And then she says, and then Susie's like, "What is this?" And then she says, "Well, I thought that he got the doll for me, but I found out he didn't get the doll for me, so I stole it." She's a kid that needs a lot of attention. She's got some issues. So, but she feels really bad about it now. And then Susie's like, "There are men looking for this thing," and they get more and more agitated, like something is up. We need to hide this. So then she and Gloria and Susy kind of plot together. And so Gloria's going to be the watch for her. Susy puts the doll away in the washing machine because they'd already been through there. Mike tries again to get the information from her, and she realizes this is not her friend. Like she gets that there's some shenanigans going on. Because Roat, by the way, also she could hear he had the same pair of shoes when he was the old man and the young man. Saying he was the old, and she's like, they were the same exact shoes, like same squeak and everything, and the same weight and everything. So there's no difference. So she's super smart, and I'm sure they're relaying this to each other in the van. So Roat is like, okay, I got to ditch these losers because they're just going to be a problem for me. They make mistakes. And so he offs with, I don't know how he does it in the play with Carlino.
I'm trying to remember how
in the movie
kills...
it's different. But we'll talk about the movie in a second.
Correct. Because in the movie, of course, we have other locations and stuff like that. Somehow, okay, I'm getting a little confused here, but somehow it's like Carlino and Mike decide that they're going to do away with Roat. And Roat figures it out, and he does away with them.
Right.
He does away with Carlino first, and then I forget how he kills Mike.
Mike, I think he stabs, just like he does in the movie. But also it's established that Mike can't hurt her. He doesn't have it. Neither one has it in them to actually hurt somebody. They can't hurt a woman.
Yes.
It's not in their DNA. So, and he realizes this. So he stabs Mike. Mike falls down the stairs in her basement apartment, and then he walks over her, and then he's saying like, "Look, the jig is up. You know where this thing is. You get it to me now." And she sends another thing, blows my mind every time, but she says to Susy, "Do you know where the Port Authority is? Not a great place to hang out now."
No.
And I remember the 80s and 90s when I used to go as a kid. It was like, she sends this child into a cab to Port Authority.
Oh, my gosh.
In 1967.
Okay, so plot hole number 3. Why don't you just send her to the real police when you know your husband is all the freaking way over in Asbury Park? What are you doing? Get the real police. You know that these people are not who they say they are. Send her for the real cops. What are you doing? She sends Gloria to freaking Port Authority bus terminal. Like Margos says, even then, it must have been even more chaotic than it is now.
Absolutely. This is when they fancied it up.
The digitized screens telling you where everything was and everything. So she sends Gloria to go to Port Authority and wait for the buses from Asbury Park. Are you freaking kidding me?
All night if you have to. A Saturday night in Port Authority. She's sending a child.
Come
and then
on.
she's going to tell Sam, and then they're going to go to the cops, and then they're going to go to the village.
Because why?
It makes
no sense.
New Yorkers are like, this makes no sense. But anyway, this is Susie's plan. She's got to have, her husband Sam's got to be a part of it. So Roat notices gasoline, throwing it around the apartment. One to scare her, one to also, I think, like destroy evidence.
Yeah.
But it is also to scare. He takes a ribbon or a scarf and like plays with her head. Like he's really showing her.
Oh, it's so creepy and
it's
suspenseful.
Super creepy. Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, you've got to give it to me now. And
she's so vulnerable.
Yes. Yes. And she's blind. And she's like, and then also in the meantime, like when she sends Gloria away, she knocks the lights out. She has Gloria knock the lights out in the hallway. She locks the lights out in her apartment. She's trying to unplug everything. Another big deal is like, she doesn't know where the plug is for the fridge. I'm like, it's behind the fridge. Where else would it be? Gloria. I mean, Susie, you're not that blind.
And also, like, there's this whole thing about she's supposed to defraud. I have a lot of problems with her husband. He's horrible.
Yeah,
dude.
He's the worst.
He tells her, doesn't ask her, tells her to defrost the refrigerator, which was again a thing that you used to have to do because your freezer would get all full of ice. The ice would accumulate over time, and sometimes I certainly had a freezer like this, and you could barely slide like a little Lean Cuisine.
So nasty. You had to get ice
so bad.
picks.
Yeah, chip it out.
Yeah.
But the way that one of the effective ways of defrosting the freezer, which is what he is telling her to do, is to take everything out, unplug the refrigerator, and just let the ice melt. Just let the ice completely melt away, and then you clean it and you put everything back. So she's loath to do this because it's a lot of work, Mr. Susie. He doesn't have to do it. I was so mad. I was like, even if
Saturday night, like, is that what she's doing with her time?
Seriously, like,
I was like, what?
Really?
Yeah. So
anyway, so of course she must know where the plug is because she's loath to do it. So how?
All plugs and appliances are in the back.
They're always in the back.
They're always in the back. There's no mystery. But anyway, but that's part of the things that they're putting in there out to you. He comes over. He threatens her. She manages to throw the gasoline on him, and then is threatening with a lighter match. She's
got matches.
Matches.
And it's again the suspenseful.
It's great.
She lights a single match and it goes out, and then she lights another match, and then she runs out of matches, and you're like, it's so suspenseful.
Right. And in the theater at the time, they were lowering the lights gradually to like just the legal level, they said. So like you were just trapped in your chair, and this is happening on stage. At some point, so she manages to get the knife away from him and stabs him. And then she thinks she can run away, but then he leaps up and he's going to get her.
Yeah, there's a scene earlier on where Gloria kind of throws a little tantrum. And this is something I didn't quite understand. In the play, so they get in this little tiff that, Susie is asking her for help and Gloria's just being a brat. There's no biggie. She's just kind of, she's being moody. Yeah. She's not like being very cooperative about helping Susie. Oh, and then she throws a tantrum and she starts throwing things in the apartment, which, she's going to trip over, but, she's just throwing things. And then they make up. At the end of they realize Gloria's like, I'm sorry, I've been, I shouldn't have been such a brat. And Susie's like, I shouldn't have been so cranky. Susie calls Gloria in the play, in the movie, she calls her a little monster. In the play, she calls her a half-pint shuttlecock. Isn't that weird? And then Gloria so they're fighting. They're having their fight back and forth. Susie says, you stop that. Stop it, you little half-pint shuttlecock. And Gloria freezes and stares at Susie and quietly says, "What did you say?" And Susie says, "I'm sorry, Gloria, I shouldn't have said that." Is that some kind of like major profanity that I'm not aware of that, of a shuttlecock as a, was that some like super offensive word to call somebody?
I didn't even look it up. I don't know.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
And they don't use it in the movie, which makes me wonder, like maybe it's some kind of like really particularly offensive word I'm not aware of. Maybe I'm offending a lot of people right now just bringing it up. But anyway, so they make up, and it's a really nice scene that they both realize that they're relating to each other as women, which I really appreciate. And they both admit where they're in the wrong in this little tiff that they've had. Gloria helps Susie kind of pick up all of the mess that she's just made and throwing things around. And one of the things that she threw was a knife. So they're picking the things up, but they're not putting them away. They're just getting them off the floor, is what I'm saying. And the apartment, as the play goes on with the men coming in and out and old Mr. Roat and young Mr. Roat, the apartment is getting more and more disarray, And then we're now in this very climactic scene where it's just Roat and Susie, and he's pouring the gasoline and she's getting the gasoline on him, and the matches and the scarf thing. And the place is a mess. It is a shambles. But Susie, because she's blind, she's kind of she knows where the things are that she put there, And so they're in this climactic scene, and in the play, it's a little bit different than in the movie. In the play, the doll, I think, is hidden in the washing machine. They have a washing machine, like a laundry washing machine. And so she goes and she says, like, I give, all right, I'll get you the doll. She goes and gets the doll and hands it to him, and he's like, okay, well, now I'm going to lock you in the bedroom. And we infers that there like other things are also going to happen that are very upsetting. And we already know he's murdered a woman in there. So even the suspense has not died down that the doll is in the bad guy's hands. And as he's like telling her, he's monologuing about like what he's going to do and how, why it's necessary for her to now be punished and be locked in the bedroom. She feels right because she knows that she put the knife in a place that the knife doesn't go. She put the knife like on a tray on the table or something. And so she knows that there's a big knife there, and she kind of very craftily picks up the knife in a way that only the audience can see. And as he comes up to kind of accost her, she stabs him. And we think, oh, finally, okay, great. And he falls, and she's trying to get her way. Now the apartment, as we say, is a shambles.
Pitch black.
So it's pitch black. Everything is everywhere. She is stumbling all over the place, just trying to get out of there. The door is locked. The phone line has been cut. And but the guy has been stabbed, at least so the audience thinks. Right. And she's just about to like make it out of there, and the jump scare of all jump scares. He comes back. Spoiler. He grabs her by the ankle. He's got the knife that he's taken out of his own body, and he's about to just. She gets away from him. But he is crawling towards her like it. Oh, can you imagine how scary Robert Duvall must have been?
Oh, and yeah, and so committed. I mean, so committed to it. We were talking. Stacy Keach does we watched an 1882 version. Stacy Keach, in his version, when he's talking about what he's going to do to her, he starts putting on makeup and earrings. It's a very odd choice.
It's very interesting. Like he really had a direction in mind.
Yeah. But so that's where we are. It's pitch black. Yeah. And that's when she goes to the fridge. And because she didn't turn it off, when you open the fridge light is very bright. But she hides behind the door of the fridge because he's coming for her. And just as he's getting to her, the cops burst into the room, and they can't turn any lights on, so they have their flashlights going everywhere. And Gloria is there, and Sam is there. The cops are here. Give it up, dude. Stop it. Yeah. And just as like they're talking,
I'm just so glad that his bus came in on time.
Well, can you imagine it was late? It's always late. I mean, and how do you get a cab from Port Authority? It takes forever. I mean, everything takes
to Greenwich Village. I cannot stress enough.
Sending a child to the most dangerous place in New York, Times Square,
from Greenwich Village,
in a cab. Like, here's some cash. Go to the unbelievable. New York City kids are very tough, I have to say, too. They're very self-sufficient. But anyway.
It's not a short trip, is what I'm saying. You know, even if she's perfectly capable of taking care of herself, that's not a short trip. I'm sure the police station, the Greenwich Village police station, is much, much closer than Port Authority waiting for the bus from Asbury Park and then going to the police. But anyway, it sounds like the bus got in on time because there they are. The cops and Sam and Gloria, there they are.
And the way the cops are talking to her, like, are you okay? And whatever. Gloria, and I like this better. Gloria says, hey, don't talk down to her. She's fine. And then she goes to Susy and helps her out, like helps her.
Yes, Gloria does.
Gloria does, which makes sense because they have this partnership now.
Yeah. And Gloria is she speaking? So she reprimands the cops for being such misogynistic jerks, and then she says, as she's helping Susy. She says to Sam, she's going to be okay. She keeps saying to Sam over and over again, she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. Which is a completely different kind of ending than how the movie does it. Yeah. But so then they finally, Sam and Susy embrace and lights go out in the end. Yeah, I mean, it's super suspenseful. I so wish we could have found something with Lee Remick and Robert Duvall.
Yeah, they used to do the Grammy Awards. I'm sorry, the Tony Awards. They used to do. Awards. They mainly just stick to the musical now, the musical numbers. They used to sometimes do dramatic plays, but it's like getting 2 minutes out of a play.
I know, it's weird.
It's weird. It doesn't really lend itself to that. I tried looking, and so we both saw a version, and I put it in the show notes. But it's 1982. There's a version with
Catherine Ross, the one from Stepford Wives.
Who's so beautiful and so
she's so great. Gorgeous. She's super good at it.
And Stacey really Keach, who's really good too.
He's great. He's just, choices.
He's making a choice. He's doing a thing that's like very 1982. He's just putting his own mark on it. I get it. In 1998, here in New York, there was a version with Marissa Tomei and Quentin Tarantino. And I tried to find online an EPK, an electronic press kit, which oftentimes shows give them to the news outlets so they could play scenes and say, hey, there's this new play. It started in Boston, and then it came to New York, and the reviews were horrible. Because Quentin Tarantino is not, I'm going to say it, is not a great actor.
No,
he's a
let's
great
just say
director.
He's not a good stage actor.
Stage acting is totally different from movie acting. Julia Roberts has been in one play her entire career. It's not easy. And I've been talking to a lot of Broadway actors recently because I'm working on a project. And what they have to do to project on stage and manage the audience and manage everything that's going on and every night have to do it, and sometimes 2 shows a day, it's a lot of work. And so it's not easy. I'm going to say that. But he was savaged by the critics, and he's apparently like, you can't find anything in LA.
It's really disappeared.
Yeah, and we were looking. Trust me, I was putting on my goggles and really down the dark web. Nowhere.
I was like, what if I spell it differently?
Right. Exactly. I was like, some news outlet would have reviewed it, and then they show something from the state. Like, there was nothing. I can't find
good luck.
It. So there was a version in LA a few years ago that I saw, and you can, if you go to YouTube, there's lots. This play keeps going on because it's a good one to put on. I think you only have the one location, and you can use multiple actors play multiple. And they had a version with Alison Pill, who was from The Newsroom, and I forget the person who played the other male parts, but she is the Susie, and they set it in 1945. So it's just after the war, and it's diamonds, it's not heroin. And so it makes more sense, like she doesn't actually have a phone, or she doesn't, like little things. Right. So apparently it got really great reviews. So I'm sure that, but I was like looking for that. I mean, sometimes you find commercials for local productions. Yeah. Which I always love to watch anyway.
I do too. I love to watch those. They're fun.
I love those things. But I wish there was something. We talk about this all the time when we talk about musicals and theater. It's just, I wish there was some record of this that we could watch. There was some broadcast of it, because it must have been amazing. I mean, Robert Duvall. And
then playing like the old man and this. Yes. Oh, I'm sure it was phenomenal.
And she was nominated. Lee Remick was nominated, but he wasn't, for a Tony Award. She was also in The Omen. She was really good in The Omen, which is a creepy.
I just love her.
Yeah.
I just love her.
That's the book. The play. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
the script in the play is called the book. That's what they refer to it as.
True. This is true. Yes.
All right. So should we talk about the movie now? Let's play this trailer and go to the movie.
Audrey Hepburn, the role you're going to remember whenever you're alone.
You behind the door. She's alone, stay there, still don't move.
Gloria?
She is blind, and she is alone, with a terrible suspicion growing.
Gloria, I know you're there.
You went right down the list and told me that the doll linked Sam and Mrs. Roat. And now Mrs. Roat's dead. Murdered right next door.
But maybe I was wrong.
That doesn't matter. If you thought that way, the police will think that way.
Well, see.
The movie comes out the following year. So this play is on Broadway in 1966. This comes out in 1967, and it's directed by Terrence Young. And there's a story about him. During World War II, Audrey Hepburn was a teenager, and she actually worked in the Dutch resistance and helped quite a bit. He was in a hospital where she worked as a teen. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, what a coincidence. So he's directing her in this movie. They had a great friendship, and this is one of her last movies. I mean, she retires after this. Yeah. And it's Mel Ferrar was her husband who produced it. And there was this project they were hoping that they would save their marriage, but they get divorced like a year later. Mm. So it's Robert Carrington and Jane Howard Carrington's work on this screenplay. It stars Audrey Hepburn as Susie.
That's all.
So good in this movie. Oh my God.
It's really, really good. It's such a good performance. Truly, yeah.
We also have Alan Arkin as Roat. I mean, he's my favorite. I mean,
I know.
This guy.
I just love him.
Love him. Richard Crenna is the nicer of the thugs. Jack Weston plays Carlino. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. is Sam, a very tanned man in New York City.
He's extremely tan for New York
God.
City.
Wow.
No wonder she believed he was having an affair.
Yeah, first I would too. Yeah, why are you in Miami all the time? Julie Harrod, who played Gloria. She's in the movie, and a woman named Samantha Jones. She's stunning. They start the action in the film. They started in Montreal, and so she's getting the doll. Very skittish.
We take a very long road to our apartment in Greenwich Village at the beginning of this film. Yeah, so we see this very beautiful woman, Samantha Jones. She's impatiently waiting for this older gentleman who is sewing up a doll. And and I'm like, okay, this is not in the play at all. Like there's a lot of the things I think that are added by the screenplay, apologies to the Carringtons, are very clunky. And she's like, if only heroin, look, so like, oh, I guess it's heroin that's going in the doll. Like they don't keep you guessing at all. So she's waiting for the doll. He finishes the doll. He hands her the doll. She goes out the door. The old man makes a phone call as he sees her walking away. And you're like, oh, what's that about? And then we see her at the airport with Sam. And she is beautiful. I mean, She kind of reminds me of like a Sharon Tate kind of type. Yeah. She's giving him this line about like, I think it's her daughter. And she doesn't want the daughter to see the doll because she'll get jealous or something like that. She's this thing about it was her doll when she was a kid. I don't know. I mean, it's all extremely clunky. Sam and Lisa don't have any interaction in the play whatsoever, but we have this whole scene with Sam and Lisa at the airport. So she gives him the doll, and then we see her go out of the airport, and Alan Arkin swoops in and like grabs her by the arm and leads her off. And then we're in the apartment. And then it's pretty much that. Then it's kind of very much as it in the play. Like Margot described earlier, like with the first guy showing up and then the second guy showing up and then Alan Arkin showing up. And then also in the movie, which I don't think we needed to have, there's this whole thing with the corpse of Lisa. Like in the play, you don't see Lisa at all in the play. In the play, she's in a closet that's off stage and Mike goes into the room and you hear him go, oh no, oh Lisa, and the audience realizes everything. We really hit you over the head with Lisa, like literally.
Yeah, well, they lead, first we get the idea of their relationship, that they've only been together for a short time. She's newly blind. She's going to blind school during the day and figuring out how to read Braille, how to find things in her apartment, making sure there's Braille on the clock so she knows what time it is, like little things like that. And at one point, he gives her this whole list of chores to do while he's gone for the day.
Again,
it's a Saturday, by the way.
It's Saturday. The house is already spotless. Yeah. I don't care if she's blind or not. Like, what is with the honey-do list for this woman? What are you doing, dude? And the way that he presents it, again, it's not like this so much, and it's different, a little bit different in the movie. It's worse in the movie. He presents it as if like he's doing this like this tough love, this big favor. Right. Of insisting that she do this chore and that chore around the house
so
while
interesting.
He's gone.
You and I had a guest on the show. She wrote the book. Have you read the book?
I have it right here, as a matter of fact.
Yes, she's working on a project, and we were talking to her and Kristen Lopez, thank you. And she's also she's a fantastic writer, and she was saying, we were talking off the air about how she's very much like an expert on like disabled people and how they're treated in film. And this is one of those instances where it's like, just yell at them. They just want to be toughened up. Don't feel sorry for them for 1 second. And we
don't help them at all.
And these messages you internalize them, and you think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yes, exactly.
And then years later, I found out, like when I had issues, I was on disability for 6 months. Like I could have used a help, like a boost, like help off the sidewalk or help me into this or that. Like we get indoctrinated with this idea.
Never mind the fact that she is recently blind. She became blind as the result of an extremely traumatic car accident and the ensuing fire.
Yeah.
So, but she's fine. Just some tough love. Let's not attend to any of that kind of trauma. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. It's annoying. He's very condescending. And it's also like, it's once again, her Saturday, he's going to be gone all day, probably won't be home till super late because it's like a 3-hour bus ride if it's a day. It's winter. There's, that always makes things longer. But anyway, so he's telling her, oh, this is how you defrost the fridge and all this stuff. She just wants to home and listen to the radio or something. But that's not the movie we're getting. We're getting, again, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., once again, very tanned and handsome. I guess they love each other. I'm sure they do, but it's like, there's a part of me that's like, this is not the long road.
I agree. There's not a lot of chemistry, right? First of all, he's just a jerk. And that's not his fault. That's not the actor's fault. Like, you don't get the impression that this man has ever defrosted a refrigerator in his life, and that he's insisting that she do it this extremely specific labor intensive way that he's not going to be a part of at all. But there's not a lot of chemistry. We don't get a lot of. It's not in the script, and they're doing their best, I think, with trying to like give us the impression.
Oh yeah,
that they
she
really,
acts like
they
she's
really
crazy
care about
about
each other.
him.
Yeah.
And he says, "I love you," but it's those weird little things that I'm just like, she could do better. But she's now home, and then he takes off, and then we have Richard Crenna show up, who's so handsome, and Richard Crenna, man,
very charming
AF. I mean, I with his P code, and he comes in and to take care of her. When we do have the scene of we do actually see a scene where it's Roat in the apartment alone with the two of them. And once again, he pulls out the knife, and then one of them gets the camera and swings it over his head. The other one has like the tripod. Like,
there are a lot of very funny moments in this movie. They're for being so suspenseful and everything. And I don't know if it's
intentional.
I wondered if it's intentional or not, because when it's watching that production that you and I watched with Stacy Keach, it's very menacing. Like all of that's extremely menacing, but in the movie, it is hilarious. It's like, what is this, a gladiator movie all of a sudden? Like, what is going on here?
It's very silly, but all the same beats are there. Roat comes in as the old man, and he's got the gray hair and makeup. And, it took me like the 10th time I've seen this movie that I was like, why does he even bother? Like, he's really committed to playing an entirely different character to a blind woman. And there appears to be nobody else in that apartment. Like,
no, but when he shows up as the old man, he runs into Gloria. Remember, Gloria's coming out of the apartment, and he yells at her. He's so gruff, and he yells at her until she gets out of there. So I think maybe it was that. I'm like, I'm willing to like that.
Yeah,
okay,
it's fun to watch him do that.
You might run into somebody in the hall and need to look like two different people who are exactly the same size and wear the same shoes. Sure, okay,
I get it. So he does, and like Margos said, Lisa's now in the closet. I like Lisa in the closet myself, but I'm a creepy horror fan, so I'm totally.
But Audrey Hepburn, forget that she didn't notice the guy who just ate the cold cuts, who's like 2 feet away from her. Now she doesn't notice a corpse who is like
hanging from a closet door.
3.5. First of all, your door. How heavy is your door now?
Right.
Really? And you don't notice, like, you don't. She's like 3 inches away from this corpse, and at one point she throws a scarf on, and Lisa's hair snags on Audrey Hepburn. You notice. My daughter. I have very short hair. My daughter has very long hair. Sometimes when we're standing close together, her hair snags on me, and I'm like, ugh. You can feel that. You don't need to see it to feel it. And I don't believe it for a second.
I was really 12 when I first saw this movie, and it was at a Poconos overnight thing for middle school kids. Room full of 7th graders. We were terrified. This movie, we were totally on board with it. So I'm always like, I'm okay. It probably would have made more sense just to have her in the bed, laying on the bed. Walk in and see her laying on the bed, and then she goes, because that closet, like, how big is that closet? And there's like nothing in there.
Your Greenwich Village closet?
Yeah. Those are just little choices, though. I think somebody just thought, oh, it'd be really cool if we had her in the body bag, hanging.
I think she had a clear garment bag.
And that actress, man, she must have been like, don't breathe, don't move.
I know.
That must have been hard. I mean, she's working. Samantha Jones was working for this.
She's really putting in the hours. Absolutely.
She is. So I'm okay. I'm ready. I'm willing to like let that go. But they do all the stuff about calling, and I'm like, after a while, I'm like, why doesn't she lock that damn door? She's really a sitting duck here. But the intention,
if Gloria comes, she can actually speak through the door, and you would know that it's Gloria. Lock the door. And the whole thing about like, well, a woman was found dead, because they moved the corpse, next door. Well, a woman was found dead next door, and the husband's like, oh, you. What?
Yes. It's very effective. I mean, in the moment, we're making fun.
It is. You get sucked in. We're making fun, but you get totally sucked in. And that's really Audrey Hepburn, Alan Arkin, and
Richard Crenna.
Gloria, Julia Harrod. She's so good. I love the scene between the two of them when they have the fight and she throws things.
She throws everything.
It's such a great scene. I really love the two of them together. They have chemistry.
Mike?
Who's Mike?
Hello, Gloria.
Who's that man?
Friend of Sam's from the Marines. You wouldn't know him, dear.
Oh, I see. Is the grocery list ready? The supermarket closes pretty soon.
It's on the typewriter with the $5. Can you see it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, and Gloria. Maybe when you come back, you give me a hand with the icebox. I've got to defrost it while Sam's away. What did you do then?
Switched it to the frost, of course.
That's not how it's done.
It is, too. I've done for Mother hundreds of times.
Your mother's refrigerator's a modern one. This one's ancient. We've got to do it Sam's way. We've got to take everything out.
Okay, do it Sam's way then. I'll go to the A&P.
Did you close the door?
Yes.
But I didn't hear it shut.
Okay, so it's open.
Please shut the door.
Close it yourself. You're nearer.
Gloria, close the door.
No!
Gloria!
No, I won't!
Listen, you little monster, I won't put up with this one more minute. What's that? What are you doing? Stop it! Stop it! Gloria, do you hear me? Stop it! Stop it!
They have
I
great
love the two of
chemistry.
them, yeah.
And she has great chemistry with Mike. Like,
Yeah.
in another universe,
Yep.
he would have had a shot with her. Unfortunately, Mike's got to go. So we have to get rid of Carlino, who's run over several times, which I
Many
love that.
times.
Yeah.
Many times. You're going to be
No one
really
calls
sure
the
about
cops,
that.
I guess. I mean, he just runs him over. And then he comes over to the apartment and she tries to set things up. She sends once again, Gloria, go to the Port Authority, 12-year-old, go to Times Square. And she's now set up at the apartment and she's like rocking in the rocking chair and she's talking with, and there's stuff. It's like the last 20 minutes of this movie, I think, like 15, 20 minutes. It's just the two of them. And it's incredible. I think it is absolutely
It's
incredible.
riveting. It
And-
really,
and he
they're
wasn't-
so good.
They're so good together. And he was
Yeah.
not nominated for an Academy Award. And he was asked later, were you shocked? He goes, no, you're not going to get an Academy Award for scaring Audrey Hepburn. She's a queen.
No.
She's a princess. Like, you don't get credit for that. But he loved the challenge because a lot of actors wouldn't take the part because they didn't want to be known as the person that
good.
terrorized Audrey Hepburn
Yeah.
because everyone loves her.
Did you know they wanted to kill me? I did. I knew it even before they did. They were awful amateurs, and that's why you saw through them.
I saw through you, too.
No, not all the way, Susie. Even now, not all the way. The lovely thing was the way I let them set it all up. All that silliness of meeting in the parking lot, the whole thing. They had comic book minds, so we did it their way, right until the end. And then, topsy-turvy. Me topsy, and them turvy.
Where's Sam? Where did you send him?
Clever Susie.
Where is he?
He's on his way to Bellevue Hospital. There was a message waiting for him when he got to Asbury Park. One of those short, formal things. Your wife has had a slight accident, you know. So he took the first bus and is racing to your bedside. So we don't have too much time together.
You killed that woman, that doll woman.
I don't want to talk about Mrs. Roat. Are you gonna give me that doll, Susie?
I can't.
I don't believe you, Susie.
I can't. I don't have it anymore. What is that? Stop it.
No, I'm not gonna ask you again, Susie. So when you want to tell me where it is, you're gonna have to tell me.
I can't. It isn't here.
You're lying again.
Oh, what is that?
It's just my hand. Well, now. Why don't we stand up? I said stand up.
Mr. Roat,
Hmm.
are you looking at me?
Yes, it.
Stop! Don't touch that!
But he's so good. He's so scary. You know, it's the glasses and the leather jacket and the 60s haircut and the Caesar cut and all
But
that,
also-
but it works.
It's also like with Alan Arkin, he's so brilliant because he is such a genius comedian. Like, I think he was a member of the original Second City. Like, he really has a comedy background. So that lends this character, which could be too heavy or too ridiculous. He's just ridiculous enough with the kooky hair and the dark glasses. He's just kooky enough to scare the pants off of you.
Yes.
You know, and his timing and the physicality, and when he's being the old man, he's really being an old man. And when he's being the son, he's really being this son. So he's playing all these, it's like he's playing multiple characters, and because he is. And then like the back and forth, the energy between the two of them is absolutely electric. Like, you cannot look away. As scary as it is, it's just riveting, and it holds up so well. I can't believe how, it's just like I never saw it before. It's amazing.
When he it's just a simple thing. He's taking a scarf and just like wiping it by her face. And she's like,
It's
"What
like
is that?"
Nightmares. I have nightmares now.
You have
about this
nightmares
scarf.
thinking about it. Also in the scene, she throws the gasoline. This is to throw them off. She has the matches. She stabs him, and you're like, she tries to go up the stairs, and I never realized he did this, but he links the chain around the front door so she can't open it. And she's banging the pipe, letting Gloria know, like anybody around, she's screaming for help. She goes back to the kitchen and the phone's not working, and she's going back because she doesn't know what to do. She's going to go to the window or something and yell out the window. And that's when he leaps across the living room, grabs her ankle, pulls out his knife, and then belly walks with the knife towards a terrified Audrey Hepburn, who now it's two things. She's opening up the refrigerator,
fridge. Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to reach behind to get the plug out.
Window.
And she's also hiding behind the door at the same time. And he's coming for her. And that's when the cops show up. And she's okay. And they get him, and the cops are looking around. And then she gets out of the fridge. Okay,
let's talk about the end of this movie. Okay.
In the book, and I just looked at the play, Margo, while you were getting that. I just read it. And the cops are saying to Susie, like, all right, we're done here. Come out from the kitchen. Come over here. Like, they're barking at her to come over. The apartment's a mess.
Horrible.
They're horrible. It's dark, and she's terrified. Here, they understand what's going on, and they're coming over to help her. This terrified woman who's been, a stabbing maniac.
She was frozen with fear. It's not like she can't see them. She's just stabbed a guy and been a witness. I don't care if you're blind, you are still a witness to at least one other murder. And she's had her mind played with for all this time. And she's almost catatonic behind the fridge. And what does her husband do?
Don't help her. Don't help her. She wants to do it herself. And this always makes me think now of Young Frankenstein when Peter Boyle is climbing up the castle and all of a sudden he's like looking to be helped. And he goes, no, don't help him. He says, don't help me once. And Peter Boyle has the best look on his face, like, are you kidding me? And I think
like that.
It is. I think that's a goof on that. That's my personal thing.
Oh my gosh.
Why did it's so annoying? It is so irritating. She
If
wants
she
to do
could
it on
see,
her own.
You would help her.
Absolutely.
If she could see, you would help her. What is wrong with you?
Like, this is going to be a daily event she's got to get used to? I mean,
get rid of this guy. Get rid of this guy.
The worst. I don't care how handsome he is. He's the worst. He's going to cheat on you and he'll blame you for it. This is not a keeper. And that's how they end the movie. But I know they hug each other and then we get this great Mancini song at the end. Mm-hmm. Wait until dark. Look, it's effective. As a thriller, it's super effective.
It is. And again, it's like holes. The anti, it is very much like the anti Barefoot in the Park. It's the anti Breakfast at Tiffany's. We have the Mancini score, but now it's like very dark and suspenseful. It's so much fun. I cannot stand this husband. I just want to slap him. It's not the actor's fault. It is. I don't like the way that I don't like the script choices. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I do not like the script choices that are made. I don't think we needed them. We did not need to go to Montreal and wait around in the apartment for freaking ever to know that was heroin in the doll. We did not need to see Lisa alive. I mean, she's beautiful, but was she somebody's girlfriend or something that we had to have a whole like thing with her? I don't get it. Why did we have to have all of that? I
bet you Sharon Stone was in something. Sharon Tate was in something, and they were like, "Oh, we need a hot blonde like her." Like that would.
She's beautiful.
She's gorgeous.
She's absolutely gorgeous.
That everything.
And she's good. I'm not saying she's not doing a good acting job. She totally is. But it's completely unnecessary. It does zero to advance the plot.
Yeah.
At no point are you like, oh, because in the airport, such and such, or because in Montreal, such. No, like we had no reason to go there. And I don't like I just like all of the stuff that the movie, all of the script touches, the extra dialogue that the movie added, I dislike.
At the same time, I just kind of go along with it at this point. I know the beats.
At the same time, by the time we get to, I love Carlino and Mike. Those three guys are phenomenal. They have great energy between the three of them. Like, again, it's comical when they have the thing with the tripod and the swinging the camera. Yeah. But I'm enjoying it. When we get to the point where it is just Ellen Arkin and Audrey Hepburn, and I can keep forgetting your name, Gloria. I'm so sorry. Julie Harrod. When it's just those three folks that we're dealing with, I am all in. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. So yeah, book versus movie. I'm going to pick the movie still.
I think I am also going to pick the movie still. And I'll tell you why. Because for all of my little gripes about it, because I do love that little slight element of comedy that Ellen Arkin is bringing us. The real spirit that Audrey Hepburn has in this character, that she's so smart and so trying, she's trying and working so fast to try to make sense of what's going on. Yeah, I agree. I still would have to give it to the movie. I enjoyed the play very much, despite the plot holes in both versions.
Yeah, you have to understand there's plot holes.
You just have to go along. We're just going along with it.
A lot of thrillers have them, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, they do. But yeah, it's just so riveting when it's the two of them in that last section of the movie in the play too.
It's one of the best
phenomenal.
Jump scares too.
Oh, absolutely, it is definitely. We forgot to mention Robbie Benson.
He's got a little part in there.
He's a little Robbie Benson.
Little baby Robbie Benson. He's in there. We did to Billy Joe a few months ago. I loved it. I think it's great. And it's a classic thriller. And it's super fun. And there's lots of versions of different plays by different regional companies all around America. You could go and check for yourselves.
No, I enjoyed it very much. This was a super fun. Yeah, it's fun when we have something that is shorter like this and you have the time to like go and look at some of these other productions that are out there. I love doing all that. So we both agree movie.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we doing next?
House of Usher? Is that what it's the Vincent Price
Yes.
It's Fall of the House of Usher is the Edgar Allan Poe poem, excuse me. And it's about 50 pages. There's also Mike Flanagan, I believe, has a Netflix series about it coming up this month. But we're not covering that. We're going to cover the Vincent Price movie, which is called House of Usher. And now I think of the singer Usher when I'm saying that. Wasn't there a House of Usher with him? I don't know. There must have been. Anyway, but we're covering that next. It's the Vincent Price one because Vincent Price. And it's October. It's October. We got to cover some Vincent Price. Yes. And we also still have this month I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we're both really excited about. And then we have Misery for all of you that have been begging us to have Stephen King on our show again. And we have a special guest for that episode. So that's going to be really, really fun. So that's us for the next few weeks. And please send us your suggestions once again at all those places I mentioned before. Once again, our email is bookversusmoviepodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode. And if you could leave us a review, we'd like you forever. Margot, where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all my social media call-outs are at She's Not Your Mama. And where can they find you?
You can find me at Brooklyn Margot for Twitter and for Blue Sky. I'm going to try to get you some codes for Blue Sky. Yes. I'm at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Threads, Instagram. My site is Brooklyn Fit Chick. I'm at my name on TikTok, and I have some Wait Until Dark clips there. I'll see if I can find one for Stacy Keach that I could put up there. That would be pretty fun. That's my name, Margot Donahue. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for Spooky Books Month, a movies month. We'll be back soon with House of Usher. It'll be Usher or Vincent Price, one of them. Thank you so much for listening to the Book versus Movie podcast. We are a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more podcasts you will love at frolic.media/podcast. We follow the hashtags LadyPodSquad and Podern Family. If you want to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, go to Patreon, and look for Book versus Movie Podcast. We have a basic Facebook page, but we also have a private Facebook group. Go to Facebook and type in Book vs. Movie Podcast Group if you want to join that. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Book versus Movie. Spell all those words out. If you'd like to send us an email, it's bookversusmoviepodcast, spell that all out, at gmail.com. You can follow Margot D at Brooklyn Fit Chick on social media and Margot P at She's Nacho Mama. Thanks so much again for checking out our show, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.